Good morning to you. Welcome to a day that is going to be, for those of us who have been working on it now since January, a great challenge, honestly. To put it in the vernacular, I can say we ain't done nothing, nothing like that before. This is also relatively, as far as I know, unusual in not only the Feldenkrais conferences, but also in the tradition of the Feldenkrais method that I know. My name is NED DWELLE, Edward Dwelle, and I live now in Germany, where I've lived since many years, now in the country. And I'm very pleased that so many of you have shown up for what we can truly call an experiment. The experiment is to find out if we can go through another activity to ourselves, what Moshe calls awareness through movement. Means, of course, that you're coming in touch with a very special quality that, as far as we know, human beings have that is different than consciousness. Awareness is the ability to direct yourself consciously. Consciousness is not directed. You're either conscious or you're unconscious. But the ability to direct yourself with awareness is to direct your consciousness, to guide your consciousness. And in difference to the more general being not only alive, but of course being what we call being conscious, which of course from the Latin is with knowledge, with science, scientia. And the idea, the concept from our workshop is to go through what we would more call the sensory channels to yourself. And that would mean that there, of course, will be movement, because in the way we are as human beings, our sensory and our motor activities are always coupled, always together. So Paris Karen started off with a tradition from Bobby McFerrin's work, the soul chord. And we're going to use that as one of our ways to have some sense of measurement. That's one of the traditions of the guiding of awareness that belongs to the pedagogy of the Feldenkrais method. Paris is from Baltimore. She's, I think, just 20 years finished with her training, and is a training organizer as well as an assistant trainer. She's long interested in singing and in performing and singing. And Bobby McFerrin is her teacher in this regard. David Weber, who sits here with his hat on, which allows him to not have the glare come into his eyes quite so much from up above, allows him to see with more depth. David Weber is a long-term student of Buddhism, and has been a diamond dealer, a development of network activities in the earliest days of the computer. And he is someone who had a severe eye inflammation, inflammation of the optic nerve, and was at one point declared legally blind and went through a whole collection of, I guess we could call, brutal operations to try to save his eyes. And it found that that didn't work. So he turned to the Feldenkrais method and found not only a way to be able to navigate the world again, but also to see. He does need glasses. He has no lenses. So his glasses are his lenses for his eyes. David will be guiding us in the experience of vision. David Cates is the fourth member of our team. This is a man who... I need to move away from the speaker. Okay. Okay. David is someone who grew up in Connecticut, attended Yale, and was very active in the anti-war movement of that time in the late 60s, 70s, and has been living in the last years with his wife in Austria, and is a musical therapist, as well as a long-term student of what would be called in Germany theology. And theology has to do with our relationship to what is called God, Theos. And David's interested both in teaching and learning how we hear with the whole body. And so we're going to do some experiencing a more whole body approach to listening and to hearing. So you can tell that in terms of our sensory activities, that we're working with actually the major sense organs, which are the eyes and the ears and of course hearing and seeing, and then producing sound and how that goes with us. As Roger Russell said last night, actually taste and smell come in a little bit later into our systems. Earlier there was a lot of thought, neurological thought, that motor activity, movement, and sensory activity were to be separated. But the current way of understanding that is that these two major activities of us as human beings are together. I'm going to start off with more or less a traditional type of ATM. And again, finding out how it is that our sensations belong to the interchange between ourselves and our environment, which is the radical reorientation in terms of using movement as a tool for investigating human nature, which was Moshe's project. Moshe's project was to use movement as a way to go into and investigate as many aspects of human nature as is possible. And that means, of course, that the sensation of ourselves moving, of we being in movement, is always going to be oriented to our environment as well. Moshe just brought that very clearly into all of his ATM work, all of his FI work, and brought the relationship between my environment and myself, and the reversibility of understanding ourselves through that relationship. That means literally quite understanding yourself according to the environment. That means the demands of the environment, and in particular the demands of gravity, which is, of course, the big unknown, so to say, in our world. We still can't honestly quite clearly say how gravity is gravity. We used to think there was a magnet in the middle of the earth that nobody believes that anymore. But the theories of gravity now are so 2 or 3 main ones, and still no one-dimensional or even multidimensional, widely accepted theory of gravity. So these are the demands of our environment, just as light is one of the demands of our environment, just as sound is one of the demands of our environment, just as air and the receptivity, exchange of gas, of air, is one of the demands of our environment, just as water is one of the demands of our environment. And of course, just as fire is one of the demands of our environment. So these 3 people are going to present their aspect of our explorations in the course of the day. I'm going to do a 35-minute ATM, and then we're going to have a small pause, and then we're going to come back and we're going to go into the work with vision, and around 12:15, because we're starting early, 12:15, 12:30, something like that, we're going to have a short midday pause, because that was what was scheduled from the organizers. And as many of you may know, there's a wedding that's taking place in the hotel, and this room is one of the main wedding party rooms, so we have to be out of the room by 3 o'clock, and we will be out of the room close to 3 o'clock. Okay? Now, one part of what's going on here is that we wanted to have a way for friends, neighbors, relatives, children, grandmothers, grandfathers, all the various collections of our people who are connected to us, to come into a Feldenkrais class. So let's get one check. First of all, who has not done a Feldenkrais training or is in a Feldenkrais training? Who from you have not done a Feldenkrais training or in a... Good, okay. And then just to be asking this simple question, who of you have never done any Feldenkrais awareness through movement? Is there someone who's never done anyone? So everyone has had some experience, great, one man, thank you. Of experience of awareness through movement. I will speak a little bit about the structure, the concept of awareness through movement, but not so much. Say again? Oh, right. And then I assume that the rest of you, of course, are going to take in your experience of awareness through movement in a new way, because the background to everything we're doing will still be awareness through movement. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's agree that I love Jeff Haller's expression, camping equipment. If you would kindly get up and take all of your camping equipment, that means all of your bags, everything that's like that, over toward the edge of the room. We're not going to let anybody come in